welcome back, everybody. I'm very happy to come to us with another episode of Pioneers and Builders here in Jacksonville, Florida. Honored would be a good word. I have Mr. MaliVai Washington with us today. Mal, first and foremost, before I get in the intro, thank you for being on. I really appreciate you being here.
No, Randall, thank you for having me on. Thank you for visiting my youth foundation recently and learning a little bit more about what we're doing. And I really appreciate you highlighting not just my organization, but other organizations throughout the region. So really appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So Mal Washington, he's been a Jacksonville resident. I believe you were telling me for 35 years. You've been here a long time. Professional tennis player. Had an opportunity to kind of look over the highlights, and some of them are fun, man. You beat Andre Agassi when he was number one. What was that like?
When you're playing professional tennis, you dream about beating the greats, but playing Andre Agassi, that actually goes back to when we were 12 years old. That's how long I've known Andre, and we were roommates as teenagers, played for the first time in San Diego at 12 years old. So I joke with him. I beat him the first time we played as juniors. I beat him the last time we played as pros, and he beat me every single time in between.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know that part. I just saw you beat him when he was ranked first on the tour, and I was like, pretty nice little feather in the cap.
No, here was the problem with it. I could beat a lot of big names at some of the smaller tournaments. It's what makes the greats the greats. When you get to the majors, Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, the Aussie Open, Roland Garros, they somehow have that ability to elevate their game and produce their best tennis at the majors and go on to become greats. So I was able to beat some of these guys at the smaller events, and they would oftentimes take me out at the majors.
Yes, except there was one year that we got to the Wimbledon Final.
Yes. I mean, that's the pinnacle, Randall. That's the pinnacle of my career. I mean, there was a period in there where, I won a tournament in Bermuda that spring 1996. And that was my last pro event that I won. A couple months later, I was in the finals of Wimbledon, which is tremendous because that's what you dream about as a kid, going to the finals of a Grand Slam title. And then couple weeks after that, representing the United States in the 1996 Olympics, which was another dream. So there was a span in there in 1996, and it extended into early 1997, where I was able to play Davis Cup for the United States down in Brazil. The final time I represented the U.S. on an international stage, and actually that's ironically where I got injured. But there was about a 6-7 month span right there where, yeah, I'd say for me that was the pinnacle of my career.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good stuff. It's something that's achieved by very few. So I think that's great. You said something about the Olympics, and it made me think 96, that was the Atlanta Olympics, correct?
That was the Atlanta Olympics, and that was the only time I had the opportunity to play. And ironically, the win in Bermuda bumped my ranking up just a few notches and made me eligible to play in the Olympics. And the most disappointing thing about that is I lost in the quarterfinals. And to one of the, Hall of Famer, Sergio Bruguera from Spain. And that knocked me out of the medal round. So getting to the semifinal, I would have at the very least played for a bronze. And Andre Agassi went on and won the gold that year.
Who you previously beat. So, if you play the ring game here, you beat him and he won the gold. So you kind of won the gold. That's how I look at it.
You look at it that way, and there's 300 million Americans who don't look at it that way, nor do I. I had a couple of wins over Andre, but I mean, he's a guy that had, I think it's 8 career majors in his lifetime. I had 1 major final in my lifetime, so very different careers.
Yeah, and I'll get off the 96 Olympics in a second. I'm just curious if you had were you in the area or still in town when the bombing happened? That was a really big deal. I was a little younger and I just remember snippets of it, but what was that experience like?
It was, I was still in the area, and when anything like that happens, it's scary. I mean, you've never been, you almost don't even know how to react. I was not on site. I was in the city. I was not on site when that happened. And you just say a little prayer for anyone who was hurt. And in that period, there's just a lot of uncertainty, and having never experienced since or since then, you're just a little maybe baffled you're stunned, and because you're a tennis player, and that's all you're interested in doing. That's your whole purpose. But then you kind of have to refocus and say, well, this is why I'm here.
Yeah. I think the word that comes to mind for me is I feel like that would have been surreal, a little out of body experience type, because I served and I went overseas, and I'm not saying that it lessens it or not, but you kind of expect it when you're doing it, right? You go overseas, you expect to see that stuff, but when you're at home at the Olympics, probably not so much.
You definitely don't. And God bless you for serving. I appreciate your service. Even if there is a level of expectation, maybe the first time you see or hear or experience an explosion, or you lose someone, or you know someone who got injured, that is surreal. That brings it home, kind of the dangers we face, and literally here today, the dangers we face, domestically and abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. I promised I didn't bring you on to talk about the Olympic explosion. I'm very excited to talk about why you're here in Jacksonville, and the work you do, which I know is full of purpose. You came down here, I believe, in your early 20s. You're from Michigan, and you came down here, you trained. That's really, from my understanding, where you took the leap as a tennis player. And then we went through some accolades of your professional career. And when that was over, you didn't abandon tennis at all. You really leaned into it. The MaliVai Washington Youth Center and Youth Foundation, 29 years,
We're in
correct?
our 29th year of programming here at Jacksonville. Yeah.
Yep. And thank you for letting me tour. I think it's one thing to have somebody kind of rattle off statistics and data and give you an idea of what the foundation's about, and then you see it with your own eyes, and the impact is a lot more palpable. So would love to spend pretty much the rest of the time talking about that and the impact and the success stories and everything that comes along with it. So let's go high level overview. In 96, you decided to break ground on the foundation, and can you kind of start with, A, why did you want to do it? B, why tennis? Why did you think that was going to, be such a main player in keeping kids safe? Yeah, I guess it's probably the best word, but walk us through it.
So it was actually in 1994, my dad and I were talking, and we decided to start a foundation. And it wasn't uncommon for me to be at a tournament. My dad was traveling with me, and someone would go to my dad, hey, do you think Mal would be interested in coming and talking to some of our kids? And it morphed from me going and talking to a small group of kids to making a small donation to their organization, which sometimes just helped them buy a couple of rackets and some tennis balls. And my dad and I came up with the idea of starting our own foundation. But it wasn't until 1997 that we started programming here. And our current, 29 years in, our current executive director, Terry Florio, who has been a good friend of mine for over 30 years, I was messaging her, and I said, I have this foundation. We don't really do anything with it. We've supported some small organizations before, but I'd love to do something in Jacksonville with tennis and kids. And that was her expertise. Terry was the tournament director of a professional men's tennis tournament in Atlanta, and they had this ACE program, athletics, character, and education. And she just sent me a fax and said, you know what, this is what we do in Atlanta. You could maybe partner with the Boys and Girls Clubs. And I said, great. How do we do it? I was a professional tennis player on the road 8-9 months a year. How do we make this happen? And from the conversation, within 12 months, we had a partnership with the Boys and Girls Clubs here in Northeast Florida. We were holding our first fundraiser. And Randall, really what it was, we were having success exposing kids to the sport of tennis. And my hope was they could get from the sport what I was able to get. And I still get from it. But we quickly found there was so much more we could do. When you're on the tennis court with a kid and you say, yeah, how's school going? Well, it's not going so well. I'm not sure if I'm going to pass this particular grade, or I'm struggling in this subject. It was difficult for me to look at that kid and say, well, we only do tennis. Good luck. Keep working hard. Try to do better.
Yeah.
So we said, maybe we can start our own after school program, similar to what the Boys and Girls Clubs were doing. So we did. We started with 25 kids after school, called it tennis and tutoring. And early on, what we found is with our after school program, we were getting kids to go to school more often. And once we really started tracking it, we were having kids who were missing 25 days of school one school year, and then they're coming into our program and they're missing 6 days of school. And so if nothing else was working, we were getting kids to go to school more often, but then it just morphed into from tennis to tennis and life skills to education. to expanding into, now 29 years later, into what we are, which is a full-fledged, comprehensive after-school, kinder through high school program, really getting a group of kids in that 32209 zip code of North Florida, focused more on their conduct and their education and really their futures, because they all the potential in the world that even my two kids have, they just oftentimes don't have the finances or the opportunity. So with the foundation, we're trying to give those opportunities for them to realize their full potential. And I just want you to know, I did that whole thing on one breath.
I'm actually quite impressed. I'll go so that you can catch your breath, and then I'll send it back to you. It's the building, the original building. I understand that we built a second building in 2020. We're absolutely going to get into that. But the building that I first walked into when we did the tour, is that the original building from the 90s, or did you?
That was actually the second building. That's our youth center that we first walked into. But the first building is the older building right across 6th Street, which is the Emmett Reed Community Center. And we started our after school program with 20 kids and 2 classrooms in that building. And that was the kind of the start of what we are today. It went from that Boys and Girls Club partnership where we were just providing tennis programs to that after school program with 25 kids. And that really put us on a different track from a tennis program to a tennis-based program that provides life skills and education. And then the building, the youth center that you and I first walked into, we embarked on a capital campaign in 2005 and built and opened that facility in 2008. That's our youth center, and it houses our elementary schools, kinder all the way through 5th grade.
Okay. Yeah. So there's been a lot of evolution from
Yes.
building to building to building to building. I know that such a huge part of the Mal Washington Foundation is addressing the 32209 zip code that you mentioned just a second ago. Why is that zip code so important?
It's the 09 zip code, but also 32208, and also some kids from 06. But the bulk of we sit in the 09 zip code. The bulk of our kids are from that zip code. In Northeast Florida, Randall, that is the most challenged zip code. If you open up the newspaper or go online, and if something happened, some heinous crime or a murder happened, there's a good likelihood that it was in the 09 zip code. I mean, that's the zip code with the highest crime rate, highest teenage pregnancy rate, teenage dropout rate. A lot of challenges. We went to the mayors and city council and said we wanted to try to do something in that neighborhood. We could do our program in any part of Jacksonville, but why not go to an area that is most challenged, where we think we can have the greatest impact? And that's where we ended up, and that's where we have wanted to stay. So every new evolution and every new construction project we have taken the approach, how do we continue to serve the kids right here in this neighborhood, which is why we've stayed there. If we had built a facility 3 miles away, 5 miles away, we would have lost all the kids we had been serving. So our goal has been to stay in that neighborhood, and that's our plan going forward for years and years to come.
And how, you may not have thought this, I mean, maybe you were taking a big risk by doing this, but what made you think that the kids from the 09 zip code would take any interest in tennis as a hobby or as a sport or as a life skill?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have had the opportunity to play tennis with kids all over Europe, all over Asia, all over North America. I've traveled to about 33 countries, I think it is, and have probably played tennis with kids in about 33 countries around the world. And tennis is a great sport. It doesn't matter where I am or what the kids look like or what language they're speaking. I'm speaking English. They're speaking their native language. We can't understand each other, but yet we're having a good time on the tennis court. It just made me realize, if you put a sport in front of a group of kids, football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, golf, soccer, or playing chess, if you make it fun, you incentivize it, they get the feeling that they're getting better at it, kids are going to gravitate to it. Kids just love to play games. It doesn't matter what it is. you could take out a jump rope, and if you make a contest with it, kids are going to want to do it. So the trick is getting the community involved and engaged, because honestly, there were some people who gave us pushback. We're going into an impoverished area wanting to start an after-school program that involves tennis. And I heard we don't play tennis. And I said, well, we do, and we will. And this program, and I would say this to people, if this program doesn't fit what you think your kid needs, no disrespect, hey, I hope you find another program. But what we have shown over years is if you come into our program and you engage with our staff and our volunteers and our sponsors and everyone who wants to see these young people succeed, we're going to do our part as an organization. But if those kids do their part, they are going to be successful. They are going to graduate to the next grade. They are going to graduate from high school with a plan after high school. They are going to have scholarship dollars available for them. They are going to learn financial literacy and have a solid financial knowledge foundation when they graduate from high school. So these are all the things you get. And if you don't think this program is for you, God bless you. Find another program.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. You said earlier you wanted to give to these kids, you wanted to gift tennis to them for the same reason as to what tennis gave you. You said tennis gave you a lot. First off, what did tennis give you in terms of foundational skills, life skills, that is? And what are these, I don't want to say these kids because I'm making it so generic. These are real humans. What are the kids in the foundation learning by implementing tennis into their life?
I think this is what it has given me, and this is what it gives anyone who plays the game. It gave me the value of hard work. You don't get to the level I got to in junior tennis or college or pro tennis with a lot of hard work. My dad's word, stick-to-itiveness. Tennis is difficult. It is not easy. It is challenging. You will have times where you just feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. But if you're willing to stick it out and persevere and have that consistent discipline, those skills will serve you well your entire life, no matter what you're doing. It taught me the value of sportsmanship. Tennis is one of those sports where you walk onto the court, you win, you lose, you walk up to the net, you shake your opponent's hand, you look them in the eye. If they beat you, you say good luck. And if you beat them, maybe you say bad luck, and then you go shake the umpire's hand. So often in sports today, football, basketball, maybe hockey, maybe even a few other sports, it's how badly can I show you up and disrespect you? I'm going to dunk on you and then look down on you while I'm stepping over you. And that's the opposite of tennis. Tennis is about respect. And I want to be respected when I'm on the tennis court. And I'm going to show respect to my opponents and the fans and the ball kids and everyone out there. Believe me, showing respect under intense pressure like that is going to serve you well throughout your entire life. So I think those are the things that are translated to our kids, even though I say tennis is not their number one sport. Basketball and football are king. But if we can go in and teach them some of those principles that the sport of tennis, only the sport of tennis can teach, I think it's going to serve them well after high school, in college, and in whatever career it is they choose to pursue.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about tennis is that you can't run out the clock. You have to beat them.
Yep.
Or and so for me, and I said this about baseball as well, is it's one of those things where not only can you not run out the clock, like you have to finish the job. You can't get 90% there and say, okay, like that's good enough. Like you actually have to win. Like you can't just stop. So I think that's a pretty big one in 2025. Generationally.
There you go.
Speaking, thank you. I just get the sense that a job okay done is a job well done. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I like tennis because when you're playing singles, it's you out there and you have to problem solve and multitask and figure out what's working and what's not working. You can't just hold the ball and let the clock run out. You actually have to finish that last point. You can't sub out if you're playing badly and bring someone on the court. You have to problem solve right there. And just so that mental task, that mental challenge of getting frustrated and losing and trying to come back and trying to keep your wits about you and growing your emotional intelligence, all of that is gained from tennis. And when a kid is out there, I have been a victim or subjected to it, and I see kids subjected to it where they implode. They're out there and they are getting the daylights beat out of them, and there's times they give up. There's times they go out there, they're a little too cocky and confident, and lose to someone that maybe they probably should have beaten. And those are growth moments, and those type of challenges and losses, and then sticking to it and never giving up and just staying disciplined and keep going back to practice. Maybe even that day you just lost, let's go hit some tennis balls, or the next day you come back. Those character building skills will serve you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Speaking of sticking with it, 29 years into doing this, obviously we've seen tremendous growth. We have multiple buildings. The amount of people who use the foundation now has substantially grown. What was it about tennis or being a tennis athlete that prepared you to run a foundation out of the gate and then for 30 years? I mean, how did we stick with this?
I'll go back to my parents. My parents instilled in me a work ethic, and they always said, regardless of your background, regardless of your economic background, where you came from, where you were born, if you're willing to put in the time, you will never be disappointed in the result. And they allowed me and pushed me to put in the time, and it led to the tennis career that I had. What are the chances of a kid who was born in New York, grew up in Michigan, to two parents who grew up in rural Mississippi in the 1930s and 40s? What are the chances of that kid, me, going on and becoming a Wimbledon finalist or an Olympic in tennis, of all things? Not track, not basketball, not football, but tennis of all things. So they kind of said and told me, if you can come where our family has come from and achieve that, decide what you want to achieve and go do it. It's there. It's in your grasp. So for me, regarding the foundation, it was, yeah, we can do this. If we put the right pieces in place, if we can persevere, if we can show results, yeah, we can do this. And then it's just a matter of just keep going. There have been probably only about, 102 reasons why we could have just said, you know what, we've been around for 10 years. This is good. Let's shut it down. You know what? I've gone to enough funerals of former students who have gotten murdered. Let's just shut it down. There's always a reason that you can come up with to quit or move on, or it's too frustrating, or why aren't the kids advancing at a rate that you want? But instead, you just keep going. And then you look up one day and you've been here for 10 years and then 20 years. And there'll be a point where we'll say, we've been here for 40 years. And that's really the goal of the foundation, Randall, and this is really a nod and a tip of the cap to you, everyone who's made a donation, everyone who's volunteered an hour at my foundation. 25 years from now, I want them to be able to drive through the 09 zip code and see a sign that says MaliVai Washington Youth Foundation, and have them say, oh my gosh, I didn't know they were still around. I remember donating to that 25 years ago. I remember volunteering at that organization 10 years ago. I remember when they started their first programs in the late 1990s. And we're trying to set ourselves up for that long-term success, because I know there are always going to be kids who could use an after-school program.
I agree. And you said something that made me think of this question, and I hate this question, but it has to, I have to ask. You said you attended some funerals of some kids who have passed through the foundation who were murdered. And, a large part of that is due to the zip code being a huge factor in the murder rate here in Jacksonville. What are the raw emotions when a day like that comes and you did what you could to help them, and unfortunately didn't pan out the way you had hoped?
It's frustrating. It does not deter me. And in some ways it provides an additional spark, and it just makes me say, we need to keep going, as opposed to, this is too tough, we need to stop. But and I'm thinking of a young man right now, I literally sat with him in our youth center face to face, and we started talking about choices. And I used the term destiny. You have a destiny, and your destiny is not committing petty crimes. Your destiny does not involve breaking into cars, which was going on. I said, you have a destiny and something you're supposed to achieve, and we can kind of help you figure out the direction you're supposed to be going. And Randall, what we find is when those troubled students, if they leave the foundation for whatever reason, maybe they think they're too cool or they don't want to do it anymore, if they don't find another program to engage in those after school hours, that's when we start hearing tragic stories. And, that kid gets murdered. And it's the strangest feeling when someone a teenager who you have talked to face to face, who you've tried to engage with, who has been in your program, and for whatever reason, you can't keep them in the program, and then you're going to their funeral. It's the strangest emotion. And then the challenges, especially in the neighborhood, is making sure that murdered kids' friends don't want to seek revenge. Because in the neighborhood, it's this happens. All right, well, now this is what we're going to do. And it just continues to escalate, and it just continues to be tragic incident after tragic incident. And we've had staff members who have had to talk to students and say, okay, you need to take a deep breath. You need to try to process this. We'll help you process it, but this can't be a revenge thing here. That there's no positive that's going to come out of that. So you do what we can as a staff, as volunteers, to impact the kids as best we can, knowing we're not going to save everyone. We really aren't. We're going to lose some. But the more they can buy into the program and buy into what we're doing and our scholarship interviews and our internships, they're going to be successful if they can stay in the fold. And really, Randall, what it comes down to, it's that peer pressure. I mean, when kids go out and do stupid stuff, they're not alone. They're with their buddies. If they break into a store, they're not doing it alone. They're with their buddies. They're breaking into cars. Someone's dared them to do it. And so if you can stay in the foundation where you're going to be around a lot of positive individuals and you can really watch who you're hanging around, you're only setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, Mal, I mean, I know we kind of went down the road of worst case scenario, but as you and I both know, the success stories trump everything as it relates to the foundation. So let's talk about the other side of the emotional wheel here. When you see these kids commit to the program, they come in, they do their homework, and there's other things I want to talk about the center, like the fact that they have access to computers and the fact that they have access to different career pathing options and scholarships. But if they come in, commit themselves, do the hard work, and come out on the other side, going to college, becoming great professionals, et cetera, being a beacon of their community, what does that feel like?
It feels special. It feels really good. And I'll give you different examples. I think it's great when a kid is in our program and they come up to me and they want to tell me that they got a certain grade. Now, I got a B in this class, and they're excited about it. To me, that is a success story. The teenager who tends to have a little bit of attitude at the foundation, that's actually a success story because they keep coming and showing up every single day. And I understand teens will be teens with a little bit of attitude, but it's special also when a student graduates from high school and they receive $20,000 or $30,000 scholarship to go to their university of choice. Sometimes it's in-state, sometimes it's out-of-state. Or when a student says, I'm going to pursue my master's. I just got my bachelor's. I'm going to go on and get my master's. Those are awesome stories. Or one of our former students who is a board of director on my foundation right now. There's one occasion where we are on second generation students. A young lady who was in the program in middle school and high school, her daughter is now in the fourth grade in our program. So little success stories like that make me realize we're on the right track. We just have to continue on. And one of my favorite stories is one of our former students who grew to love the sport of tennis and walked on to the Florida A&M tennis team, after he got his 4-year degree, worked for us for a decade. Okay, now he's married with kids, and now he is the head men's or head women's tennis coach at Ed Waters University, right here in Jacksonville. He's a kid who started in our program in the early 2000s as a 6th grader. And now it's come full circle. He's married with like a whole bunch of kids, and he's getting gray hair, and he's putting on my kind of weight. And now he's a head coach at a university. I mean, things like that make you realize we're on the right track. When a mom who came through the program wants to put her kid in the program, it means that, okay, she sees the value in what we're doing. And now what it produces, it allows her daughter just to be on an even better track than she was. And really, isn't that what we all want for our kids? Whatever situation we grew up in, we want our kids to have it a little bit better than we had it. And that's what we're producing.
For the Edward Waters story, that location wise is right there too. I mean, it's right where you are. And I hope one day you'll call me and say, we had somebody that went through the program, fell in love with tennis, and got a scholarship at EWU, and that happens to be their tennis coach. Like, what a handoff type of situation story that would be.
That will happen. And it's Mark Atkinson is the head coach at Edward Waters. And there's no question we're going to continue to have him recruit some of our kids who are tennis players and want to play at the next level. And that'd be a tremendous story if one of our kids then is a player of his. That'd be tremendous. But, there's also, it just came to mind a young man who walked on the tennis team at Morehouse College in Atlanta. He's in his freshman year right now, and he's on the team. So we have a few thousand success stories. Some of them are very cool, and some of them are just very small, where a kid just did his thing every single day in the program and graduated on time. Oftentimes, high school graduation on time is a success story. I think you and I both know on-time high school graduation, that's kind of a base level achievement. Okay, that's a starting point. But in an 18-year-old's mind, that's the biggest thing they've ever accomplished. And now they just need to keep stacking successes on top.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm with you. Oddly enough, in my family, vertically, I'm the only person, including my siblings, that have graduated from high school. And you think that's to what you said. I think it's a baseline thing. But, my parents dropped out when they were kids, and my grandfather dropped out when he was young and joined the Air Force. And unfortunately, I had a brother who got caught up in a few things and was let go by the school. And so it was a weird thing to feel so accomplished to do. And even all these years later, you can see all the gray in my face. I'm still the only one. So I understand, even though it's base level, I do understand that it's an accomplishment and something that some people should be very proud of. So for those who cross finish line, obviously kudos to them.
And make no mistake, when I say it's a baseline achievement, I'm not trying to minimize it at all.
No.
I'm just saying in today's world.
Yeah, it's a step of life.
Getting that high school, there has to be so much more above that high school diploma. And it brings to mind an image that I have in my head. We were doing an event, and there was a young man from the program who was speaking in front of about 400 people. On a big screen behind him, it had an image of 9 men who he had grown up with. And each of those 9 men was serving a minimum 10-year sentence. None of those 9 men were in our program, but the young man who was speaking was in our program. So he came against all odds and was able to come through. And interestingly, he was the only male in his family to graduate from high school. And he had, for a while, a part-time job with us, didn't do drugs, never been to jail. And in his world, he was the success story. And so in my head, I'm thinking, great, you graduated from high school. There's so much more. But in his world, amongst his family members, he was the success story because he had never been to jail. He didn't do drugs. He didn't sell drugs. He graduated from high school and he had a job, even though it was a part-time job with us. So in no means will I ever minimize a a high school graduation, but I know in my head, there's so much more to achieve beyond that.
Yep. Well, also speaking in front of 400 people is a huge win too. So being able to accomplish that means he'll be able to publicly speak in some pretty high pressure situations as well. That's a hell of a life skill.
It is, and it's often said the only thing, or death is more fearful, or public speaking is more fearful for people than even death. And I just, what was it, just yesterday, I think? Was it? No, a couple of days ago, I was speaking to a leadership class at University of North Florida. And there were students in that class who did not want to publicly speak. I mean, that is an anxiety they have. So that is one of the things that we force our students to do. I'm a big believer, as you might know, I'm a big believer in the value of public speaking and presenting yourself in a certain way. And it all comes from my parents. Around the house, we could not speak incorrect English around my mom. The word ain't isn't a word. Speak correctly. It's not. I am not doing this. And consequently, that's the way I sound the way I do. That's why I had a career with ESPN for a number of years, because I could get on camera and speak coherently and make, sound like, say something that people wanted to hear. So that value of public speaking is so important, and it builds confidence is what it does.
Yeah, of course. Obviously one of many life skills that people are learning in the program. How many kids do you have in
right
our
now? After school program, we have an active roster of right at 240 kids. We're a 5-day-a-week program, and we want our kids there every day. And we know the more they can be exposed to our mentors, our financial literacy, our homework assistants, our computer programs, our music, our teaching kitchen, and all of the positive adults and volunteers in the program, you're just going to fall into success. Years ago, I coached softball and baseball, my kids' sports, rec ball, at a very low level. And it was amazing that the kid who practiced 1 day a week compared to the kid who practiced 1 day a week and then got a little extra practice at home for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, it was night and day difference. It was just that extra little practice. And it's the same thing with the foundation. The kids who are dedicated and committed and show up day after day after day, they're going to be more advanced and have more opportunities, and are going to excel at a higher level than the kids in their classroom at school who are not in the foundation. Hands down. We have statistics that prove that. So that's why it's so important that we get that parental buy-in with our programs and have our kids there as often as they can be.
Yeah, we hear so frequently that showing up is 90% of the job. And I think people have just kind of launched that as a saying and just ran with it, but not knowing exactly what that means and being able to see it in practice, right? Take a 10,000 foot view of a 5-year journey of any kind, somebody who shows up every day and just, even when they don't feel like it, weight loss journeys are very similar to this, right? Even if you show up and do a little bit every day, it's so much different than running through the peaks and the valleys.
That kid who is showing up every day, they're showing dedication, showing perseverance, they're showing consistent discipline. And those skills of just showing up every single day, that's going to serve you well in whatever career you have. It's going to serve you well when you have your own family, because your kids at some point are going to torture you, and you're just going to have to show up. You're going to have to keep taking them to practice. You're going to have to keep trying to teach them discipline. And those things, what we're teaching are life skills. And there's a point where the kids are going to leave the foundation. They're going to become adults. And all those life skills that we were able to help them learn, they stick with you, and they will be drawing on those skills for the rest of their lives. But I don't know if we talked about this the last time we saw each other, but there's a little program that we have where we're trying to engage with our former students who are in that 20 to 30-year-old range, and just trying to use the foundation to continue to be a resource for them. Because we know, I only know 1,000 people. And then our board members, they, collectively, we know tens of thousands of people right here in Jacksonville who have supported the foundation. And guess what? They want our kids to be successful, not only as teenagers, but as young adults, adults into their 20s and 30s, being productive right here in Jacksonville. So let us, as an organization, continue to be your resource.
Yep, absolutely. So let's say right now, if we're talking to potential parents who are thinking about put their kids in the program, or if we're talking to potential donors who want to know where their money's going, when you guys have a kid sign up and take part in the after school program, there's so much that is afforded to each child that does so. Can you just walk us through, when somebody walks through the doors, what they are getting?
Yeah, we put our parents through an orientation, and this program is not for everyone. And it's not a drop-in program where you can drop your kid off, Monday and Tuesday, and then you don't want to be a part of the program the rest of the week. Oh, well, we want the homework assistance, but we don't want to do any tennis. No, that's not the way our organization works. We're life skills, tennis, and education. We want our kids here every single day. You're going to be on the tennis court. For those who love it, we'll even give them more opportunities to play tennis. You're going to get life skills programs. You're going to get an etiquette class, a financial literacy. You're going to learn a little bit about music. You're going to be in our teaching kitchen. You're going to have a mentor who can engage with you. You're going to on trips to Jaguars games and as a part of the Jaguars Honor Rows. And you're going to, by the time you graduate from high school, you'll probably go to maybe 6 to 8 different college and university tours, all within a 2-hour drive of Jacksonville. You're going to earn scholarship dollars. So I can tell our parents there's only about 202 reasons why you would want your kids in the foundation. You just have to pick a few of them. And then in the same way we want our kids to engage and keep showing up, we need the parents to do the same. We want them to engage, be involved, and support the foundation. Because there's times, the kids will give us pushback, and we need that support from the parents to get on that child and say, hey, you need to keep showing up. You need to keep going. They have your best interest at hand. So we try to tailor our programs. Obviously, a kindergartner or a first grader is going to have a little slightly different programming than a fifth or a sixth grader and so on. But we tailor our program to serve the needs of the kids where they are. And it works. It really does. We've had so much corporate support, community support, individuals, family foundations, and thousands of corporate volunteers and individual volunteers that make this work. I like to say we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We don't survive without donated dollars, but we also don't survive without donated volunteer hours. And whether it's volunteer hours on the tennis court, in the classroom, as a mentor, or in one of our done in a day events, there's so many ways to get involved with the foundation. But that's what the parents and the families can expect from the foundation. And I've never, in 29 years, certainly we've had kids who've left the foundation, or on a couple of occasions, we've had to remove kids from the foundation. But you know what we don't get? We don't have, kids or parents years later saying, yeah, that program, I wish I'd never put my kid in that program. No, that's not it at all. They say, wow, I wish we had engaged more. I wish you'd expand the program. I wish you could serve more kids. That's sometimes the message that we get.
Yeah, Mal, all I can do is think about my experience when I did the tour and what I saw with my eyes. And the first thing that stood out to me is because we went through the first building, which is where the elementary kids are. Every kid was so nice and respectful. It's very clear that, what's being taught there is not just academics or tennis, right? It's how to treat people well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think you might have caught us on a good day.
Is that what that was?
Because they're maybe when you were there, no one was melting down. Because I jokingly say, with a roster of 240 kids, at some point, someone has a meltdown every day.
Well, maybe they were just like, hey, that tall guy looks really nice. I'm going to treat him well. Yeah. That could have been it. They were very nice to me. Obviously, I saw the tennis courts. There was a computer room. There's a place where everybody can do their homework. So whenever they get out of school and they come by, like, first things first, like, we got to take care of the work that's in front of us. Every kid got a meal. I saw that as well. So they were fed. So as a parent of an elementary school kid, you know that your kid's going to be taken care of, supervised, fed, taught a life skill, and made sure that their homework is being done every day. And then we built a second building. 2020, what a time to build a building. This is also, and it looks gorgeous, by the way. Can you walk through what the second building is and what it represents and how it's different from the building where the elementary school kids funnel?
Yep. The first building, our youth center that we opened in 2008, is where we house our elementary, or not house, where we have our elementary school programs. And then we embarked on a capital campaign and opened a teen center. We call it Club 904, where teens become champions. We opened that in the summer of 2020 in a socially distanced grand opening in the pouring rain. And that is where our middle schoolers and our high schoolers are. The idea behind our Club 904 was, how do we grow our programs? How do we serve more kids? And there was this consensus from our staff that if we're going to expand, let's do everything we can around the teens. Because, as you said, the elementary kids are great, and they'll come up and they'll say hello and they'll give me a hug and they'll want to talk to you. And there's a point where in middle school or high school where they get a little bit more attitude, a little bit more independent. And some of them, you know what? I don't want to, I've been around here a long time. I don't know if I want to go to this program anymore. And we said, let's build a facility just for the teens and give them dozens more reasons to stay around, because, Randall, that is where our success has been had. When a kid is in our programs for 5, 7, 8 years, that cumulative impact of the after school programs and our mentors, and they matriculate into our teen center where they're going to get those life skills. They're exposed to music and robotics and our teaching kitchen. And it's a whole nother level of programming just for the teens. It's their own building. They help design it. They help with the color scheme. They help with what rooms they wanted to see in a teen center. Something as simple and as important as, what type of furniture do you guys want to be hanging out on? And so there's couches and these lounge chairs. So it's a comprehensive program that they were intricately involved in. And it was specifically for the teens to keep them around, because our smallest program for years and years had always been those high schoolers, because they get a little bit more independent. Oh, I want to do something else. So we created programming to give them an even greater reason to want to stay. Randall, you know what? I often say, if you stay long enough, we'll pay you to be in the program. And what I mean by that is, you will earn scholarship dollars. If you're in the foundation long enough, we have students who will graduate with $5,000 in scholarships. And probably on the top end, we've had students graduate with about $25,000 in scholarships, just for doing your part. And it's not rocket science. It's not boot camp and then you earn a scholarship. It's just do what you're supposed to do day after day. You're going to earn scholarship dollars.
Yeah, we're right. We're in scholarship season, I believe. That's one thing I need to make sure I clip out of this, put in the show notes, is right now these kids are filling out their applications for the scholarships now, right? And we're going through kind of a ranking situation to make sure that we're doling out the money appropriately. Do I have that correct?
So, yes. So this May, we will be awarding approximately anywhere between $100,000 and $115,000. In May 2024, it was our biggest year. We awarded $117,000 in scholarship dollars. And the process is going on right now. There's an essay process. The kids have to write essays. They have to get a couple of references, usually a teacher or a coach or something like that. And then the final piece of that is they have to sit for an interview. And in the real world, you're going to sit for job interviews in front of 1 or 2 people or 4 or 5 people. So in our case, from the 5th grade on, you can apply for scholarships and you're going to sit for an interview in front of a group of people. And they're nervous and sometimes they're getting giggly. Sometimes they clam up and can't talk, but that's a part of the growth process. And from this scholarship process, we're going to be awarding anywhere between $100,000 and $115,000 this year. And then the winners will attend our big charity event this September. The Student Athlete of the Year, the one who wins the biggest award, they get to speak at our big charity event in front of 450 people. it's a great experience. It's a great life skill for students to go through this interview process. And I'm convinced that some of the kids, because every year there's a few students who are eligible to apply who don't apply. I'm convinced it's because they don't want to sit in front of an interview panel because they're just kind of nervous about it.
Yeah.
But welcome to life and nerves and being human. It's going to serve them well. And Randall, what I see is that, especially that student athlete of the year who gets up and speaks in front of the group, in front of 450 folks, their confidence skyrockets over the next year. Then when you come on a tour or bring some of your friends, it's so easy going up and saying, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, thanks for coming today. I hope you like it," after you've spoken in front of a huge group. You think it's a little bit easier to speak up in class when you've spoken in front of hundreds of people? Absolutely. So the confidence
100%.
grows. That's why this process that we're embarking on right now is so important. And we do it every year.
There's no small amount of money, by the way. $115,000 last year, $117,000. That is not just some, hey, here's a couple of bucks to go to college. We're talking about paying for semesters and for years of education post-graduation. I don't know what to say other than I'm wildly impressed.
I appreciate you saying that, but it really hit home to me a few years ago, and I had never really looked at it this way. And I had a young lady who graduated from Florida Atlantic University with a 4-year degree and zero debt. And after she graduated, we were talking, and she said, one of the biggest things the foundation did for me was helping me with these scholarship dollars, because I have friends right now who are $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in debt. Okay. And they had just gotten their degree. This young woman just got her degree and she has zero debt. Okay. You think that's going to put your future on a little different track when
Slightly.
you can graduate with your degree, start your working career, and you don't have debt? Guess what? That woman also, back in, what are we in, 25, I think it was 23, might have been 22, bought her home. A small percentage of our students have gone on to buy a home. We know what the value of real estate and owning a home can do for someone's future and their financial future. So those scholarship dollars and being able to graduate debt-free put her future on a completely different track.
Yeah. You and I have been around for a long time, and we've spoken to many people who are debt-free and many people who are drowning in student debt, even into their 50s.
Yep.
So to say that their life trajectory is a little different is the understatement of a lifetime. There's only one extra thing I wanted to talk about the new building, because we were talking about that we can program for the kids, because these kids that are entering high school, one thing about their phase of life is at this point, they need to at least consider what they want to do when they grow up. And in the building, you have a full test kitchen. So, and I mean a full-blown test kitchen, not just like a hot plate with a skillet. You've got like a range, a vent hood, a big counter. And you bring people in to teach them how to cook, if that's what they would like to do, is learn how to cook. There's a music room upstairs where you can teach these kids not only how to play instruments, but the various levels of what it's like to be in the music business, stage hands, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously there's computer labs, and there's other rooms for these kids just to learn different skills and what I guess excites them in terms of what they want to do. How did that all come together? Why did you guys choose those specific rooms? Did you talk to the kids first and get their ideas on that before you built them out?
Some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it is just by trial and error and what we've learned over the years. But when we were looking to build our teen center, we had some staff and a small group of kids visit 2 teen centers, one in Boston and one in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and come back and report back. Just real world. You go on a business trip, you have to do a report when you get back. So our students had to report back kind of what they saw, what they learned. And what we did learn was a couple of things. One, when you're building your teen center, get the kids involved and take their ideas as much as you can. So the kids named our building. They helped with the color scheme. They helped with some of the layout of the rooms. Because of the kids, we have a music room and a teaching kitchen. So a lot of it was getting ideas from other teen centers around the country, and then our kids saying, this is really what we want to do. This is something we want to see in the building. So when you're incorporating their ideas, you're getting their buy-in. And the teaching kitchen and the music have been two of the most fun things they engage in. They like that way more than the tennis.
Yeah.
I'm like, who doesn't want to play tennis? Oh, wait, there are some kids who don't really want to play tennis, but they love the teaching kitchen and the music. And if I could, let me just mention that, and I think I briefly mentioned it earlier, but that financial literacy piece, that is something with several of our banking partners and financial partners, and me personally, love to stress on our kids. And I often say this, for the first 18 years of life, what we know about financial literacy is what we learn at home, and sometimes that's very little. But what we do learn, we learn how to spend, right? We don't learn how to invest. We might learn how to save, but we definitely learn how to spend. And young people, they graduate from high school and immediately start making some bad financial decisions that stick with them a long time. So with our financial literacy, we really try to help them develop a strong foundation of money and finance so they can start making better financial decisions at 18 years old, and then avoiding the bad financial decisions. And then you put all that together, you're just, what you're doing, Randall, is you're increasing your chances of success. Success is not guaranteed, but you're increasing your chances dramatically.
Yeah, I don't think I can't come away from this conversation and not think that we've given these kids every shot to be successful. We've given them a place to go after school. We got them off the streets. We've helped them do their homework. We've fed them. We've taught them how to play tennis. We teach them how to cook. We teach them how to manage their finances. We'll teach them about music. We'll teach them about whatever they want. And then when they're done, we'll give them a scholarship so that they can go to school.
I mean, and all of that at no cost to the families, other than a $75 application fee.
And that's it. The rest of it's funded by donors, and I assume by some form of legislation. But for the most part, you guys accept donors and volunteer hours as your main culprit to pay for this stuff.
Yep, a lot of we got some state funding and some city funding, a lot of family foundations, thousands of individuals who are making donations from six figures all the way down to $25. And we don't discriminate. We're a nonprofit. We will take any support from anyone. And I tell people, just so you know, I'm not asking you to do something I don't already do. I've supported the foundation now for 29 consecutive years, and will continue to do so because I believe in what we're doing that much.
Yep. I mean, if anybody wants to know how excited the community is to rally around this, they can go into the first building, the youth center, and they can see the wall of donors. And then if they want to go to the new center, the teen center, every hallway, every door, every room is dedicated to somebody that put some kind of capital towards making sure it happened. So there's clearly all kinds of support in Duval County for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and I take people on tours. I've done it 2 different days this week alone. I take people on tours just like you and I went on a tour all the time. And you can go on our website, malwashington.com, and learn all about the foundation. There's a spot on there under our calendar where you can actually sign up for a tour, and I'll personally take you on a tour to show you what we're doing. And from there, we've gotten some of our best volunteers, our biggest donors from those tours have become board members and people who have sponsored and mentored kids. So those tours are very, very important to us.
Yeah. 100%. I'll revert back to something I said at the very beginning of this conversation, which is it's one thing to hear about what's going on. It's a whole different thing to see it. So I encourage anybody to go take a tour. One of my last questions here, I just want to confirm that there is no crying in tennis, right?
There's no crying in tennis, but yet it happens at the foundation. It's funny you bring that up because a friend of mine, Brian Shelton, who said that, and it's on a wall in our building. He was the head women's tennis coach at Georgia Tech University. And with his women's team, he won an NCAA title. And then he went to University of Florida, and with the men's team, he won an NCAA title. Only coach in the United States to do that in tennis. Other sports, I don't know, but rarely does that happen. Someone transitions from male to female or vice versa and wins an NCAA title. And now his son is top 15 in the world on tour, having a way better career than Brian Shelton did, my buddy. But Ben is out on the tour kicking butt right now. So he said one time, Mal, there's no crying in tennis. And I thought it was such a great quote. So we put it up in our building.
Yep. It's one of the things that stood out to me whenever I took the tour.
All the stuff that stood out, it was the sign that said no crying at tennis.
Yeah, there were a few things that did, but that one was like, why is that there?
Yeah.
And then obviously the story is great. So what did we miss? I know we've touched on financial literacy and technology literacy and homework and tennis and life skills and foundations, and that it's basically free to the parents. But what else are we missing?
So we never tell the parents it's free. We do say it's no cost, because there's nothing free about what we're doing. There's a significant cost every single year and a significant cost per child. We bear that cost as a foundation, and that's not a cost that the family bears. I mean, you've done a really good job of really highlighting our organization and what we do and what we're trying to do in the community. And I would just encourage people, like I said, to go to our website if you're inclined to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. For us, it's a constant education about who we are, even though we've been here for 29 years. And it's a constant education to tell people we're not a tennis program. We're not a tennis academy or a tennis club. Tennis is a part of what we do, but we're just trying to help young people realize their full potential.
Well, I'm excited to get the word out and get even just one extra pair of eyeballs on you guys. I love what you do. On behalf of the city, thank you. Thank you for taking care of these kids and giving them as great of a chance as they can to succeed as possible. And, 29 years into this thing, it's a testament to the work you guys have done, and never resting on your laurels, right? You continue to grow, you continue to expand, and you continue to relate to people year after year. Bottom of my heart, man. Thank you.
Randall, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate everything you're doing. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on today and highlight the foundation and highlight one of my biggest passions. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can do this again once we get another 100 kids in there, we hand out some scholarships, and we grow the program, get a third building. We'll have you back on.
Whoa, third building, where'd that come from? I haven't heard anyone talk about that yet.
It's part of the growth process, man. It's going to happen. We're going to take over the zip code.
You never know, because 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought we'd have a teen center. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have thought we'd have a youth center. And, when we first started, all we were is tennis. So who knows? You never know.
Maybe at some point, maybe there needs to be a senior center. How old we're getting.
Yeah, and I'll be the first person to sign up for the senior center right next door to the Emmett Reed Community Center. And actually, that'll maybe be one of our job skills, caring for the elderly.
Yeah, there you go.
Something with MaliVai Washington.
Now we're thinking that's the next project. Awesome. Mal, thanks for coming on, man. Can't wait to get this posted out and get people to better understand what you're doing. Kudos to the kids who are about to receive some scholarships. I'm very excited to continue to hear their stories as they enter into a new chapter of life, man. I really do think what you guys are doing is absolutely spectacular.
Randall, I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.